When we announced we were eloping, my mother-in-law said, "Over my dead body." I thought she was joking. But when we got to the courthouse, she was there, in a white dress, holding a binder labeled "Legal Grounds to Stop a Wedding." My husband said, "She's just being thorough." When my fiancé, Mark, and I decided to elope, we knew it might ruffle some feathers, especially with his mother, Barbara. But we never imagined the extent she'd go to stop us. Mark and I had been together for 5 years. We met during our senior year at the University of Chicago. After graduation, we both landed jobs in the city, Mark as a software developer and me as a graphic designer. Our relationship was built on mutual respect, shared values, and a deep love for each other. Marriage was always in our plans, but the idea of a grand wedding didn't appeal to either of us. We preferred something intimate and personal. One evening, while sharing deep dish pizza at our favorite spot in Lincoln Park, we broached the topic of marriage. The conversation flowed naturally, and we both expressed our desire for a simple ceremony without the stress and expense of a traditional wedding. "Why don't we just elope?" Mark suggested, his eyes lighting up at the idea. I smiled, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. "That sounds perfect. Just us, focusing on what truly matters." We decided on a courthouse wedding in New York City. The plan was to fly there the following weekend, tie the knot, and spend a week exploring the city as newlyweds. It felt right, no fuss, no drama. Telling our families was the next step. My parents, though surprised, were supportive. They understood our desire for simplicity and gave us their blessing. Mark's father, a reserved man with a gentle demeanor, nodded in understanding when we shared our plans. Barbara, however, was a different story. We visited her at her home in Evanston, a suburb just north of Chicago. Her house was a testament to her meticulous nature, every piece of furniture perfectly placed, not a speck of dust in sight. The aroma of freshly baked cookies greeted us as we entered. After some small talk over tea and cookies, Mark took a deep breath and said, "Mom, Jenna and I have decided to get married." Barbara's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Oh, that's wonderful news. I've been waiting for this day." "We've decided to elope," he continued. "We're heading to New York next weekend for a small ceremony." The change in her expression was immediate. The warmth in her eyes faded, replaced by a cold, hard stare. "Over my dead body," she said, her voice low and firm. I chuckled nervously, thinking she was joking. But the silence that followed told me otherwise. "Mom, we're serious about this," Mark said gently. "We want a simple ceremony, just the two of us." Barbara's hands trembled as she set her teacup down. "You can't do this. A wedding is a family affair. It's about tradition, about bringing two families together." "We understand, but this is what we want," I interjected, trying to keep my voice calm. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I won't allow it," she declared before leaving the room. Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. I knew she wouldn't take it well, but I didn't expect this. We left shortly after, giving Barbara time to process the news. The following week, we flew to New York City. The city buzzed with energy, and we were excited to start this new chapter of our lives. On the day of our wedding, we arrived at the courthouse early, dressed in simple yet elegant attire. I wore a knee-length ivory dress and Mark donned a navy blue suit. As we approached the entrance, a familiar figure stood in our path. Barbara. She was dressed in a white gown, eerily similar to a wedding dress, and held a binder labeled "Legal Grounds to Stop a Wedding." "Mom, what are you doing here?" Mark asked, astonishment evident in his voice. "I'm here to stop this farce," she replied, holding up the binder. "I have every legal reason to prevent this marriage." I felt my heart race. This couldn't be happening. "She's just being thorough," Mark muttered, attempting to diffuse the tension. "Barbara, please," I pleaded. "This is our choice." She opened the binder, revealing pages of documents. According to state law, family members have the right to contest a marriage if they believe it's not in the best interest of the parties involved. "Mom, this is ridiculous," Mark said, frustration creeping into his tone. A security guard approached, sensing the commotion. Is there a problem here? Barbara turned to him. Yes, I need to stop this wedding. The guard looked between us. Ma'am, unless you have a court order, you can't prevent them from getting married. Barbara's face turned red with anger. But I have legal grounds. Ma'am, please step aside, the guard insisted. Realizing she had no choice, Barbara stepped back, tears streaming down her face. You're making a mistake, she whispered. Mark took my hand, and we proceeded into the courthouse. The ceremony was brief but heartfelt. As we exchanged vows, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness for Barbara. Her actions were extreme, but they stemmed from a place of love and fear of losing her son. After the ceremony, we decided to reach out to Barbara. We met at a small cafe in Manhattan. She looked weary, her eyes puffy from crying. Mom, Mark began, we understand that this was hard for you. She nodded, fiddling with her napkin. I just wanted to be part of your special day. We know, I said softly. And we're sorry for not including you. But this was something we needed to do for ourselves. She sighed, a tear slipping down her cheek. I felt left out. You're part of our lives, Mom, Mark assured her. This doesn't change that. Barbara reached across the table, taking both our hands in hers. I just want you both to be happy. We are, I replied, squeezing her hand. And we want you to be part of our happiness. The tension eased, and we spent the rest of the afternoon discussing our plans for the future. It wasn't the wedding any of us had envisioned, but it was the beginning of a new chapter, one we hoped would include Barbara in a more positive light. A week after we got back from New York, things seemed normal. Barbara had gone quiet. Too quiet. She didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't post her usual church quotes on Facebook. That might not sound strange, but this is a woman who once sent me 6 consecutive messages because I hadn't replied to a meme she tagged me in. Mark was relieved. He thought she had finally accepted it. She just needs time, he said one night as we were setting up furniture in our new apartment. She's cooling off. But I knew better. Barbara doesn't cool off. Barbara plots. 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. It was a list. A literal list titled, Reasons This Marriage Is Not Valid. I wish I was joking. Each bullet point was numbered and underlined. 1. Jenna is not Catholic. 2. They eloped. That's not a real wedding. 3. She didn't take Mark's last name. 4. She probably tricked him. There were 12 total. She even included a photo of our courthouse ceremony, printed on glossy paper, with a giant red X drawn over my face. I showed it to Mark. He went pale, then furious, then pale again. This is unhinged, he muttered, pacing the living room. I'll talk to her. This has to stop. But talking to Barbara was like arguing with a blender, loud, messy, and ultimately pointless. A few days later, I was grocery shopping when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Mark's old family friend, Mrs. Dunleavy. 70-something, always smelled like peppermint and baby powder. Oh, dear, she said with a pitiful look, I'm praying for your marriage. I blinked. Thank you. She leaned in close. Barbara told everyone what happened. Said you forced Mark into it. That he wasn't himself. That you threatened to leave if he didn't marry you right away. I was stunned. That's not true. She patted my hand. I know, dear. But people are talking. Mark confronted Barbara again. She denied it all. I didn't say those exact words, she insisted. She's twisting everything, I said to Mark after he hung up. She wants people to pity her. To make me the villain. Mark rubbed his face. He was tired. I could tell. And that scared me more than anything. Then, she crossed a line I didn't think even she would dare to cross. I work as a freelance designer. One of my biggest contracts was with a small, Chicago-based publisher. I'd been working with them for over a year. Out of nowhere, they stopped replying to my emails. No explanation. No warning. I finally got through to one of the junior editors on a weekend and asked if everything was okay. There was a pause. Well, it's awkward, he said slowly. But we got an anonymous letter saying you were mentally unstable. That you were using your marriage to secure financial security. I mean, we didn't believe it, but the higher-ups got spooked. My hands went cold. You think it was Barbara? I can't say for sure, but whoever wrote it knew details about your wedding. And your in-laws. I almost threw up right there. Mark was livid. She's sabotaging your career now? He called her again. This time, he yelled. I'd never seen him like that before. You're hurting Jenna. You're hurting me. What the hell is wrong with you? She hung up on him. At that point, we both knew something had to give. I don't want to cut her off, Mark told me, pacing again, but she's not okay. She's obsessed. It's not normal. So we gave her an ultimatum. Therapy. Family counseling. Or no contact. She said she'd consider it. Then blocked both of us for a week. We thought maybe that was it. That we were finally free. But then, the lawsuit arrived. It was delivered by a process server. Right to our door. Barbara had filed for guardianship of Mark. Yes, you read that right. She claimed he was mentally unfit to make life decisions on his own. That he'd been manipulated. That I was isolating him from his family and controlling him emotionally and financially. We were stunned into silence. This wasn't just drama anymore. This was dangerous. Mark sat at the kitchen table staring at the papers. She wants to legally say I can't take care of myself. That I don't know what I'm doing. Just because I married you. My heart sank. This is war, I whispered. And she just made it legal. Mark looked up, his eyes filled with a pain I hadn't seen before. I don't know if I can forgive her for this. We got a lawyer. And we prepared to fight. The guardianship hearing was 3 months away. 3 months of walking on eggshells, waiting for the next shoe to drop. Our lawyer was baffled. I've seen messy family disputes, she said, flipping through the paperwork, but this is theatrical. She included screenshots of Facebook posts from 2013. Barbara's petition claimed Mark was emotionally unstable due to past trauma and undiagnosed cognitive issues. She referenced vague episodes from his childhood, none of which were true or even made sense. But it didn't stop there. Mark's cousin, Natalie, showed up at our apartment one night. She looked uncomfortable, clutching her purse like she was holding in a confession. I need to tell you something, she said, lowering her voice. Barbara came to my house. She asked me to testify at the hearing. Mark raised an eyebrow. Testify what, exactly? She wanted me to say you've been different lately. That Jenna changed you. That you don't talk to your family anymore. That you might have had a breakdown. Mark laughed, but it wasn't a funny laugh. It was sharp, bitter. Natalie's eyes welled up. I told her no. But she said she'd make sure I was cut out of the family if I didn't help. I squeezed her hand. Thank you for telling us. Natalie looked at me with a strange mix of guilt and fear. She's not done. She's got people on her side. I don't think you know how far she's willing to go. We didn't. But we were about to find out. 3 weeks before the hearing, someone knocked at our door. It was a caseworker from Child Protective Services. We don't even have children. They received an anonymous report stating that Mark and I were planning to adopt under false pretenses and were mentally unstable. They wanted to investigate our home, interview us, verify our mental health status. I thought it had to be a joke. It wasn't. The caseworker was professional and apologetic. We get fake reports like this sometimes, usually from family disputes. But we're still obligated to follow through. After an inspection and several interviews, we were cleared. But the damage was done. Barbara had weaponized the system. Again, Mark broke down in the shower that night. He thought I didn't hear him crying. I did. Then came the twist that flipped everything upside down. Barbara had always acted like she worshipped Mark. Always painted him as the golden child, the son who could do no wrong. I assumed it was just a case of overbearing, clingy parenting. I was wrong. Natalie texted me late one night. You need to see this. Check the Reddit post. She's using an alt. She sent a link to a subreddit for parents estranged from their children. Barbara had made a series of anonymous posts under the username True Mother in Grief. She told an elaborate story about her son, falling into the hands of a manipulative woman who used his trauma to gain control. That I used feminist brainwashing to isolate him and steal his inheritance. Mark doesn't even have an inheritance. But the twist? One of the posts revealed that Barbara believed Mark had unresolved Oedipal feelings, that his attachment to her had been confused, and that I had taken her place. She even described her own son as her soulmate in another life. I sat in stunned silence. Mark read the posts and went white. "Is this what she thinks?" he whispered. That we were in some twisted emotional relationship? It was like the floor dropped out from under us. This wasn't just control. This wasn't about our wedding anymore. This was obsession. Sick, delusional obsession. Just when we thought we had reached the deepest level of madness, another secret came to light. Barbara had been telling her church group and extended family that we were in financial trouble, that she was supporting us through hard times. She created a GoFundMe, and people donated over $7,000. She framed it as helping a young couple find their way back to God. She used our wedding photo as the cover image, photoshopped to remove my face and replace it with a white light. When we confronted her, she said, "I needed a way to remind people you two aren't strong on your own. This is a ministry." Mark nearly threw his phone across the room. "You're stealing money to support a fake narrative about our life. Do you understand how insane this is?" Barbara didn't flinch. "I'm saving your soul." By the time the court date rolled around, our lawyer had a mountain of evidence. Forged emails, the Reddit posts, the CPS report, the GoFundMe, and witness testimonies from Mark's friends and cousins. But the scariest part? Barbara didn't back down. She showed up to the courthouse wearing another white dress. Not bridal this time, more like what a woman might wear to a church funeral. Pearls, gloves, heels, the works. She clutched her binder like a Bible. Her face was calm, peaceful even, like she truly believed she was doing the right thing. We were about to step into that courtroom, but I had a feeling it wasn't going to end the way we thought. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not the temperature, the feeling. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, took her seat like she'd already dealt with enough nonsense that morning and wouldn't tolerate more. Barbara sat 2 rows behind us, dressed like a grieving widow, binder in her lap. Her lawyer looked tired already. Ours leaned over and whispered, "Don't react, no matter what she says." Then it started. Barbara took the stand first. She started calm, collected. Her voice had a practiced sadness to it. "My son is a victim," she said, clutching a tissue she didn't need. "He used to be kind, thoughtful. But ever since he married her, she didn't even say my name. He's become angry, cold, unstable." She looked straight at the judge. "I believe he's under emotional control, possibly drugged. I've seen him shake when she talks. It's like watching a prisoner." I clenched my fists but stayed quiet. Mark didn't even blink. She continued with the greatest hits, the manipulation, the sudden wedding, the estrangement. And then she cried. Real tears. "I just want my son back," she sobbed. "I'm not trying to hurt him. I'm trying to save him." The courtroom was silent, and I started to panic. What if the judge believed her? Then it was Mark's turn. He stood slowly, quietly. No anger, no dramatic gestures. Just tired honesty. "I love my mom," he said. "But she doesn't love me, not the real me. She loves an idea of me. And the moment I did something she didn't like, marry the woman I love, she turned on us." He looked over at her, but she didn't meet his eyes. "She filed this lawsuit not because I'm unwell, but because she couldn't control me. This is about control. Always has been." Then he pulled out a printed copy of the Reddit posts. He read them aloud. Every disturbing word. Her describing him as her soulmate. Her obsession with our wedding. Her belief that I'd replaced her. Gasps filled the courtroom. Barbara's lawyer tried to object. The judge waved him off. "You posted these, didn't you, Miss Foster?" the judge asked calmly. Barbara stood. "Those were taken out of context." The judge tilted her head. "There is no context that makes that okay." It took 5 minutes for the judge to dismiss the case. 5 minutes. Barbara looked like she'd been shot. Her hands trembled. She whispered something, then started sobbing. Loud, ugly sobs that echoed off the marble walls. Mark turned to me and whispered, "It's over." But it wasn't. After the case was thrown out, Barbara became the family pariah. The GoFundMe was exposed. The donors were furious. She was kicked out of her church group, banned from her Facebook circles, and even her own siblings stopped talking to her. The CPS report she filed? Backfired. The agency launched an investigation on her this time. False reports are serious. But the final blow didn't come from us. It came from her own lawyer. Apparently, Barbara had lied on some of her legal forms. Falsified documents to make Mark look worse. Her lawyer reported her to the Bar Association. She was fined. Lost her teaching license. Her entire reputation gone. Months later, after all the chaos, Mark and I had a long conversation. I asked him, did I push too hard? Did we do the right thing? He hesitated. I should have cut her off years ago, he said. But I didn't. Because a part of me hoped she'd change. That's on me. I nodded. And I should have never tried to be nice after what she did. I thought I could reason with her. That's on me too. We both made mistakes. We let things slide. We ignored red flags because they came with a smile and a tray of cookies. But here's what I learned. Some people wear family like armor, thinking it protects them from consequences. It doesn't. 1 year later, we were walking past Millennium Park when we saw her, sitting alone on a bench, staring at the bean. She looked small, shrunken, like a ghost of who she used to be. She saw us. Her eyes widened. For a second, I thought she might walk over, apologize, but she didn't. She looked away, and we walked on. Mark and I? We're stronger, wiser, free. Barbara? She got what she wanted. She stopped the wedding, at least in her world. Because the woman she was fighting for, the perfect son, he doesn't exist anymore. She killed him the moment she tried to own him. And me? I don't feel bad anymore. She wanted a war. She got one. And she lost.